Hello, my name is Simon Double, and welcome to Inside the Rails, a monthly podcast for horse racing enthusiasts everywhere. And I'm joined, as ever, by Phil Boyle from BG Racing, fully recovered, I suspect, from 4 gruelling, but hopefully happy days at Cheltenham. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Simon. Yes, it certainly was a long old week at Cheltenham, but it was very good. Big crowds, 3 days of nice weather, and I ought to throw in one horrible day of weather. And some fantastic action on the track.
Yes, I know you did get rather wet on the Wednesday. I got a slightly irritable text from you, didn't I? But I think you got very wet. But as you said, some great action, and we'll talk about that for sure later on. Now, the flat turf season has started with the Lincoln meeting at Doncaster last weekend, and we're delighted to be joined by dual champion apprentice and top jockey Kieran Fallon this month. How about that?
Yeah, Kieran's got a big job to do this season, hasn't he? He's the lead rider for Qatar Racing. It'll be great to get some insight from him.
It certainly will. And a little known fact, you may know this actually, but in 2020 he became the first jockey to retain his apprentice title in 32 years. How about that? Wow,
yeah, very good.
Anyway, it'd be great to talk to Kieran, but first of all, what's the latest in the world of Phil Boyle and BG Racing?
Aside from Cheltenham, of course, it was quite a quiet month for me. I managed to take some shareholders up to both of our stables, which is always a fun morning. We were due to have a runner on the 30th of March. We were going to give our horse Far Too Beautiful a prep run on the all-weather before starting her off on the turf in the middle of April. But unfortunately, a bit of a cough thwarted that plan, so she'll go straight onto the turf now. And my other horse, Dynamic Kate, is going well at Neil Mulholland's Yard. She should have a summer hurdling campaign. But yeah, no runners this month for me. But how about you? What have you been up to? And are we likely to see any Solario racing runners soon?
We are hopefully hitting the ground running. April the 4th, we've got 2 targets at Windsor for Dancing in the Woods, now 5, known affectionately as Woody by his owners, and Twilight Bay, who's been ploughing her furrow on the all-weather, but she's yet to go on the turf, and we're hoping the grass will actually suit her a bit better. So, well, obviously a lot will depend on ground. Dancing in the Woods needs quick ground. Twilight Bay, we're really not too sure. I think they both like good to quick ground. So looking forward to that. And it's great having some syndicate success stories recently at the Cheltenham Festival with Marie's Rock and Love Envoi both winning. And more recently than that, at the Dubai World Cup meeting, Sabuska coming 5th. And he picked up over £100,000 for coming 5th. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. It's been great to see the syndicates out in force at the big meetings. I know Love Envoi was not a massively expensive horse, and you'll probably remember I was in the syndicates lounge at Lingfield during the Winter Million meeting the day she won there. She's got a very enthusiastic bunch of owners. They were all in there with me. Since then, she's gone on to Sandown and then Cheltenham. I don't think she was expected to be this good, but she certainly surprised everybody in a good way, and it just goes to show that syndicate ownership can be a gateway to success at a level that, as an individual, we can only dream of.
That's absolutely right, Phil. And people, if they're looking to get involved, they can find out about syndicates through In the Paddock or through the RSA, the Racehorse Syndicates Association. And we're both very happy, aren't we, to provide advice and guidance if people contact us using the details on the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's move on to Cheltenham. I know Adagio didn't reward yours and my anti-post bets, but between us, do you know what? I think we did okay by flagging up a few likely winners, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Although, sadly, when it came to it, I don't think I backed all of them. Didn't have a very good week betting-wise. But we both liked Constitution Hill best in the Supreme, the first race of the festival, and he was incredibly impressive. I remember I nominated Paisley Park as my each-way bet of the meeting in the Stayers Hurdle, and I know you said you fancied Flooring Porter in that race, so we both ended up giving a winning bet there as Flooring Porter won and Paisley was third. I remember we were strong on Fassar Vega in the bumper, and he was brilliant. And we matched our Stayers Hurdle performance in the Gold Cup, where I nominated our Plutard, you gave Protectorat, so we had first and third there as well.
That's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all.
I know you've always had a soft spot for a Plutard, so you must have been pleased with that, winning the Gold Cup, surely.
Yeah, I'm not as delighted as I would have been last year when I was on at 50-1 anti-post and he came second. But obviously it was great to see him win. I'm not sure if you saw the Rachel Blackmore documentary that was on ITV ahead of the festival.
I did recently, very much on your advice. Wonderful, eye-opening documentary, a really great story.
Yeah, I thought it was really well put together. And if any of our listeners haven't seen it, it's probably worth looking out for it on the ITV hub if it's on there. But the one thing I took most out of that documentary was that despite the fact she had an absolutely brilliant festival last year where she was top jockey, Rachel went home absolutely gutted that she hadn't won the Gold Cup. She rode a Plutard, who was second to Milella Indo. She certainly put that right this season, though, with a Plutard. And, what an impressive winner he was. Despite all the brilliance on the show over the week, I think he was probably the highlight for me.
Well, that's interesting. So I was going to ask you for your highlight of the week. I must admit, I thought it was a great festival, and I found it hard to pick only one. There were so many great emotional stories, great atmosphere with the crowds back. I mean, they had a record, I think, 65,500 on the opening day. Some brilliant races, as ever, some hard luck stories. My highlights, plural, if that's okay, would also have been Rachel's very cool ride in the Gold Cup, and also Constitution Hill in the opener and the Supreme Novices, setting the tone, I thought, with a demolition job, winning by 22 lengths. It was absolutely breathtaking, and it set the tone for the whole week, I thought.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with either of those. But you're absolutely right. There were really a load of big performances on the week to choose from. I thought it was actually really good that several of last year's winners, Honeysuckle, Sir Gerhard, Allaho, Flooring Porter, they were all impressive enough to repeat this year. And obviously that meant they got the atmosphere that they might have missed last season with no crowds.
Well, that's absolutely right, Phil, isn't it? And they say you can't beat festival form, and that certainly was the case this year. There were, as ever, I alluded to earlier on, some hard luck stories. Look, I'm not sure he'd have beaten Constitution Hill, but Dysart Dynamo was going well when he fell. Tell Me Something Girl and Indefatigable, they might well have had a hand in the mare's race when both coming down at the second last. But surely the most unlucky horse has to be Galopin Des Champs, the exuberant Galopin Des Champs, who fell when 12 lengths clear in the Forerunner Turner Novices chase. And do you know what, Phil? I don't think Rachel Blackmore will ever ride a more lucky winner. She benefited when winning on Bob Ollinger.
Yeah, surely Phil Boyle will never back a luckier winner when he benefited on Bob Ollinger as well. Didn't really feel like much of a win, that one, because he was clearly second best on the day. There were probably a couple more unlucky ones to throw in there as well. As impressive as L'Empresse was, I have to admit I was getting excited about my each way bet on Farouk Delane in that race, but he stumbled and came down at the second last when going well. And for me, Tiger Roll has to go down as very unlucky with the weather. That rain made that ground very, very soft, and he kicked several lengths clear. On faster ground, I can't see that Delta Work would have caught him, but the all day of rain really played into that one's hands and turned the emphasis into stamina. I mean, it was a brilliant race, but I did think Tiger Roll was very unlucky not to be able to retire at the very top.
Yes, it was a shame, wasn't it? There was no fairy tale ending to what has been a great career. Alongside some great horses, we've also had some great rides. We've already touched upon Rachel in the Gold Cup. That was a fantastic ride. But the one I'd like to mention was Danny Mullins on Flooring Porter in the Slayers Hurdle. He kept it simple from the front, dictated the pace, always looked in control. Lovely ride. What about you, Phil? Any rides that caught your eye?
Yeah, Danny was quite impressive, particularly as Flooring Porter was sort of said to be a bit headstrong and likely to sort of blow his top before the race. And I thought Danny kept him calm well and then rode him very well during the race. My probably best ride would be a little bit through gritted teeth because away from the big races and the big jockeys, I'd probably highlight Derek Fox on Korak Rambler in the Ultima on Tuesday. The reason it's through gritted teeth is I was on David Pipehawk's called Jericho Roque, who was battling for the victory over the last, and I was starting to get excited at the prospect of a winning bet. And then I looked in behind, and Korak Rambler was going incredibly well, and he came between the two horses and swept through and won going away. He was a long way back, 3 fences from home, but watched the replay, and Derek didn't panic at all. He didn't try and get there too soon. He waited until sort of the last or just after the last to unleash his run and made sure the horse had plenty to aim at in front of him. So, I have to admit he did a great job despite the fact that he cost me a winner.
Well, in fact, there were 2 sets of gritted teeth because I was also on the pipe horse. So, but I did it each way, so it wasn't too bad, not too much damage done. But now, looking forward from the festival, surely it has to be Constitution Hill and Honeysuckle. I think there might be talk of the two of them taking each other on at Punchestown and then possibly the Champion Hurdle next year. Is that your reading of things, Phil?
Yeah, it looks that way. And obviously that'll be a cracking race if they do take each other on sometime soon. Also worth looking forward to seeing where Galopin Des Champs fits into the top chasers mix next season. And then also it's worth looking forward to some of the things that we missed on Wednesday during the rain, I think, because Brave Man's Gain was a non-runner. Would have been good to see where he would have come against Long Press, but he might run at Aintree or Punchestown, and we might get a chance to see him competing with some of the Cheltenham runners there. And then obviously Shishkin never looked comfortable on Wednesday on that ground, and Chacun pour Soi fell in the Champion Chase as well, and I know Patrick Mullins looked pretty disappointed about that. So a rematch between those two and Ergumen would be great as well.
Yeah, lots to look forward to, that's for sure. Now, one challenge from these big meetings is trying to find some dark horses, maybe some that have gone slightly under the radar, that we can follow in the future. Now, I'm sure you've had your notebook out and scribbling away. So what have you spotted during the 4 days, Phil?
Yeah, there were a few that really caught my eye. Not super dark horses, but 4 I've definitely put in the notebook to follow, even at a higher level than they ran at the festival, are Statler, State Man, Camprond and Cobbler's Dream. Statler won the National Hunt Chase on Tuesday. Some people might have missed that because it was after the TV coverage ended. It was the last race of the day. He had some pre-race jumping concerns, which proved unfounded. He jumped really well. He was very impressive. I think he could be a serious horse. He could actually sort of take a fairly high position in the chasing ranks. In terms of ability, the same probably goes for State Man, who won the county hurdle. I mean, he looked very well handicapped before the race, hence he was a short price favourite, but he won it well and he probably had plenty in hand. So he looks like one that can make his mark in level weights races in future. I don't think he'll be running in too many more handicaps. 2 more I'd throw in from handicaps were Camprond and Cobbler's Dream. So Camprond would probably prefer much faster ground than he actually got on Wednesday. All of the comments beforehand were saying he would be good on fast ground, and then obviously the heavens opened on Wednesday morning. So the fact that he finished 4th in the Coral Cup on that ground was a mighty run, and he's certainly one to watch in a big handicap or maybe even a better quality race soon. And then the last one was Cobbler's Dream, who was second in the very last race. He won the Lanzarote hurdle the time before at Kempton. I think he could end up being better than a handicapper as well, and maybe that also suggests that Banbridge, who was the only horse to beat him in that race, is worth a follow as well, the Irish horse.
Interesting. So maybe some sort of light bay rather than really dark horses. But I'm sure that they're horses that our listeners would like to put into their at the races or Racing Post trackers. But are there any really dark ones that you spotted, Phil?
I can think of one. I'm not too sure whether she'll go on to do anything, but she's worth a look. In the Mare's Chase, there was a 100-to-1 shot called Maid O'Malley, and she was running a really, really nice race when she fell 2 out. She was going a lot better than her price would have indicated. She's trained by Stuart Coulthard and was ridden by his son Sam. She's one that probably went right under the radar and could be worth a look if she runs again this season, because she could be a little bit of value next time. As long as obviously she's bounced back from that fall okay. I didn't see how she was after the fall, but hopefully she's all right. And if she's running again soon, she could be worth a little few quid each way if she's a nice price.
Maid O'Malley. There you are, listeners. You heard it here first. Now, changing tack, there were a couple of stories that were grabbing the headlines away from the racing during festival week. One was the decision to water the track on Tuesday before it then rained all day on Wednesday morning. And the other was the talk of the festival going from 4 days to 5. Personally, I do wonder about the danger of diluting the festival by putting on another day. We had a 4-runner Grade 1 race, the Turners. The Supreme Novices only had 9 runners. There were 10 in the Champion Hurdle. Fairly small fields by festival standards. And yet they're looking to put on more races. Your thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, it was a subject that was much discussed on the steps where I was standing during the week. Obviously, most people in the media are totally against a 5-day festival, and I think I probably am as well. But the fact is, it's probably going to happen. There were record crowds every day. Another day would bring in a massive amount of additional revenue, and it just becomes a case of supply and demand. I've heard people moaning about prices. I've heard people saying they'll vote with their feet and not come anymore if it becomes 5 days or if the prices keep going up. But that only